case. We begin with WALB News 10's Amanda Hoskins, who was at that press conference today. Amanda, at no point before now was this man ever a suspect in this case.
It was just a few days ago that the name Ryan Alexander Duke was brought to the investigators' attention. Tonight, he's behind bars, and the Grinstead family is finally at peace. Tara Grinstead was 30 years old when she first went missing in October of 2005, shortly before her 31st birthday. Grinstead was a former beauty queen and Irwin County High School teacher. She had attended an annual Georgia Sweet Potatoes pageant on October 22nd of 2005. That was the last time anyone saw her. When police searched her home a few days later, her cell phone and car were there, but she was not. For years, law enforcement agencies searched near and far, but they hadn't had any luck. In 2010, a probate judge declared that she was dead. There have been several leads over the years, but GBI Special Agent J.T. Ricketson says they got this lead just a few days ago. Someone came forward saying they had information about her disappearance. After that, they conducted several interviews before having enough probable cause to make the charge. This is Ryan Alexander Duke. Duke was a student at Irwin County High School just a few years before Grinstead went missing. We spoke with the assistant principal at the time, who's now the county's superintendent. He says he knew Duke vaguely, but for nothing in particular. The GBI has investigated hundreds of leads throughout the past 11 years. Investigators say Duke never came up on their radar.
I can say that this gentleman never came up on our radar through the investigation.
Investigators have not yet provided any answers about how she was killed or where her remains are today, but I can tell you that I spoke with the Ocilla police chief tonight, and he tells me he's going to sleep much better tonight now that this search is finally over. Live in Ocilla, Amanda Hoskins, WALB News 10.
Amanda went to one popular restaurant where the arrest is the topic of conversation.
Everyone was talking about the arrest here at Peck's Place, but it's not the first time that Tara Grinstead's death was the hot topic of conversation. For the past 11 years, folks say her death was often brought up. After she went missing in 2005, there was a dark cloud over the community. Folks tell me following her death, everyone was speculating about who could have killed her, how they did it, and why they hadn't come forward. After a few years, they said the conversations dwindled, but they say every time investigators got a lead, people would start to speculate again. Many, including owner of Peck's Place David Schumann, were happy the arrest came yesterday, but they wish it would have come sooner. He hopes Duke and anyone else involved understands how much her death impacted this whole community.
In the first 12 years of their life in the penitentiary, wherever they go, I hope it's miserable. Because if the family had a knew the next day, they could have done moved on, but they've had to worry about this for 12 long years. And somebody needs to pay for them 12 long years.
Many folks who I've spoken to in the past couple of days have said the same thing. They say they have the same feelings, and you can hear more from him coming up tonight at 6. Live in Ocilla, Amanda Hoskins, WALB News 10.
Amanda, a Tifton judge issued a gag order yesterday. Can you tell us why?
Melissa, I can tell you that District Attorney Paul Bowden says Judge Melissa Crosh issued that gag order late yesterday afternoon, so we really won't know much more at this time, but I can tell you that crews have been out here all day. The team of GBI agents, police officers, and deputies will likely be here until dark again tonight. That group includes members of the Ocilla Police Department, Ben Hill County Sheriff's Office, and Fitzgerald Police Department. They started their search yesterday morning. On Tuesday, GBI agents says they were making headway into this investigation. They've been searching this property since last week. Neighbors who live near the property say they hope the GBI finds what they're looking for.
This really need to come to a close for the family and all the people that's been worried about it all these years.
That search is continuing right now, about a half-mile back, and we expect that they'll wrap up around the same time they did yesterday. That was around 6:30.
And Amanda, while we haven't been able to get on the property, you did go up in the air in a plane just a few hours ago to see where the search teams are working. Can you describe the scene for us?
Yeah, Melissa, that's right. I just got back from going up. I flew all around the area, and I can tell you that this pecan grove stretches pretty far out, and on the edge of the pecan grove is where all of the cars are parked. Now, on the other side of this property is where it gets a little bit more dense, and that's where the GBI has tents that they actually have set up, and that's where a lot of it looks like the people are, and it looks like they're still digging through their evidence.
And Amanda, before the gag order was issued yesterday by the Tifton judge, you were able to speak to the GBI agent in charge. And what did he have to tell you about what they have found so far in the search?
Well, Melissa, he did say that they have found some different things that he believes is evidence. He says they're not yet speculating what exactly it is, but he says they have found some things that lead them to believe that her body may be back there.
Start with WALB News 10's Amanda Hoskins, who has more details on his arrest.
Dukes is facing 3 different charges tonight. Investigators believe that he helped Ryan Duke destroy Tara Grinstead's body and then hide it. According to these search warrants, he hid the body at Fitzgerald Farm off Bowens Mills Highway. Now, we don't have an exact address for that location, but this is where GBI agents have been searching all week. Dukes is being charged with concealing Grinstead's death, hindering apprehension or punishment of a criminal, and tampering with evidence. Warrants say the events happened between the 23rd and 28th of October 2005. Dozens of GBI agents have been searching land off Bowen Mills Highway all week. We believe they ended their search last night. Tonight, Dukes waived his first court appearance. Dukes has hired John Philip Fox as his attorney, and Dukes' bond was set at $17,600. He bonded out of that tonight. Just to give you an idea of how far they must have taken the body, Tara Grinstead's house is about 14 miles from here, roughly 25-minute drive. We'll have more details on this coming up tonight at 7. For now, I'm live in Ben Hill County. Amanda Hoskins, WALB News 10.
This morning, now she joins us live with more about the possible next steps.
Jim, the feeling inside the courtroom this morning matched the weather outside for most of South Georgia today. The public was rained on. Everyone was anticipating Ryan Duke to walk through the doors for his arraignment, but then his public defender waived his appearance. Ryan Duke was not present in court today. The last time we saw him was during his first appearance at the courthouse shortly after his arrest. Duke was indicted last month on charges of malice and felony murder, burglary, aggravated assault, and concealing a death. Prosecutors say in October of 2005, he used his hands to kill Tara Grinstead. The Osceola teacher and beauty queen vanished more than 11 and a half years ago. The big question now, when and where will the trial be? No date was set today. Law experts say it's highly likely he won't be tried in Irwin County. It will take a lot of time and money, but the court will have to find another location to try him. That location has to have a similar demographic as Irwin County. Legal analyst and contributor to the popular Up and Vanish podcast about the case, Philip Holloway, says there is one other option.
The parties can agree on some type of negotiated resolution. The not guilty plea that was entered today could be changed to guilty at basically any point in the process.
That guilty plea could happen tomorrow, next week, or a month from now. If a guilty plea is entered, We may never know what investigators found on the pecan farm just a couple of months ago. Live in Ocilla, Amanda Hoskins, WALB News 10. It was in this courtroom today that some of the justices from Georgia's highest court heard arguments relating to a gag order in one of South Georgia's most notable cases.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Chief Justice.
A courtroom filled with law students and members of the public watched as Derek Bauer presented his arguments for several media outlets to 8 Georgia Supreme Court justices.
This case involves the rarest of judicial remedies, a prior restraint in the form of a gag order, and the need for clarity from this court regarding the legal standard governing such orders.
That gag order was issued by Judge Melanie Cross in late February in relation to a criminal case where Ryan Alexander Duke is facing murder charges for the death of Tara Grinstead in 2005. It specifically ordered all prosecution, law enforcement, defendant, counsel for the defendant, potential witnesses, expert or other, court personnel, and family members on both sides from any public communication about the case. Media outlets appealed that order in an Irwin County courtroom in March. Following the appeal, Judge Cross revised the order, narrowing it down to the attorneys involved in the Ryan Duke and Bo Duke cases, as well as investigators who couldn't speak publicly.
We respectfully ask this court to vacate that order.
Bauer argued the gag order is prior restraint on the media and therefore the public. Arguing in defense of the gag order was Michael Gowan, who is one of the attorneys who represents Ryan Duke. He was joined by the district attorney of the TIF Circuit, Paul Bowden.
Immediately subsequent to the press conference, our client was brought into the courtroom.
Gowan started by responding to a question by Chief Justice Harris Hines about what considerations his office gave to the court about the gag order. Gowan explained Duke was shown to the public immediately in his prison suit.
Do you have evidence a gag order was entered kind of right after the arrest?
Justices questioned Gowan hard about the need for the gag order. Gowan used evidence from other trials to support his argument that law enforcement must remain a part of the gag order.
And I think the United States Supreme Court considers law enforcement officers as participants in the trial.
But the media outlet's attorney argues law enforcement is necessary in keeping the public informed.
They are the securers of our communities, and by cutting off the public's access to any communication with law enforcement about the case, I think it only enhances what was already a very stressful and frightening case for over a decade in this community.
Justices asked tough questions to both attorneys, leaving Gowan silent at times.
The problem that we have is to get into the facts that we believe would be potentially prejudicial would be prejudicial right there in the courtroom in the hearing.
The court now has 2 terms to make a decision, which could be as many as 6 months. In Athens, Amanda Hoskins, WALB News 10.